On 5 January 1942, amid public celebrations in Tokyo following Japan's early victories, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto ordered the Imperial Combined Fleet to begin planning the second phase of operations in the Pacific War. Situation reports from the Philippines, Malaya, and Southeast Asia suggested that Japanese forces would soon dominate much of East Asia and the territories seized in December. Despite these successes, deep divisions emerged within Japan's high command. Militant nationalists urged continued expansion as long as momentum lasted, while Yamamoto and more cautious officers feared the long-term consequences of a protracted war against the United States and Britain. Yamamoto's reservations about the war were well known. His opposition to unlimited conflict made him a target for extremist elements, forcing him to remain at sea aboard the battleship Yamato to avoid possible assassination by radical nationalists in Tokyo. Yamamoto believed Japan lacked the industrial and economic capacity to win a long war. He repeatedly emphasized the need for far-sighted statesmanship, warning that early victories would inevitably fade without a political settlement. Drawing on his experiences at the London naval conferences and as naval attaché in Washington, Yamamoto understood British and American strategic culture. He believed that only a decisive naval victory could open a brief window, perhaps 18 months, during which Japan could negotiate a favorable peace. He argued that the fall of Singapore would psychologically shock Britain and destabilize its position in India, making negotiations possible. However, Yamamoto recognized that even such a blow would not deter the United States. Although the attack on Pearl Harbor crippled the American battleship fleet, the failure to destroy U.S. aircraft carriers deeply troubled Yamamoto. Those carriers, still at sea, represented a continuing and dangerous strategic threat. Several expansion plans were debated. Yamamoto favored an Indian Ocean campaign that would draw out and destroy British naval power and potentially link Japanese forces with German advances towards Middle Eastern oil fields, but the army rejected this proposal. Another plan sought to isolate Australia by capturing New Guinea and surrounding Pacific islands. Yamamoto opposed this approach, believing it too slow and insufficiently dramatic to force American concessions. Ultimately, Yamamoto advanced the Midway, or ME, plan, designed to lure and annihilate the U.S. carrier fleet in a decisive battle. He also supported the AL plan, which envisioned operations through the Aleutians toward Alaska. Although naval leaders in Tokyo quarreled bitterly, Yamamoto prevailed. The strategic significance of Singapore's fall was eclipsed by the urgency of eliminating American carrier power. The April 1942 Doolittle raid on Tokyo shattered Japanese confidence and proved that the United States retained offensive reach. This raid reinforced Yamamoto's belief that Japan urgently needed a spectacular victory. That victory never came. In June 1942, the Battle of Midway proved catastrophic for Japan, resulting in the loss of 4 fleet carriers. The scale of the disaster was carefully concealed from the public and much of the military. Despite Midway, Japan continued its southward expansion. Naval and army forces advanced into New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, threatening Australia's northern approaches. The Battle of the Coral Sea temporarily halted Japanese plans against Port Moresby, but Japan still occupied Tulagi and began constructing an airfield on Guadalcanal. Allied intelligence soon detected Japanese airfield construction on Guadalcanal. Admiral Nimitz and Admiral Turner recognized that such a base could threaten Allied communications and potentially isolate Australia. In response, the United States planned its first major offensive of the war, an amphibious invasion of the Southern Solomons. The decision was made despite limited carriers, inadequate training, and unresolved command disputes. Strategic disagreements plagued Allied leadership. Admiral King opposed placing General MacArthur in overall command, while Vice Admiral Gormley doubted the feasibility of the operation itself. Logistical shortcomings were severe. Supplies were poorly loaded, training was rushed, intelligence incomplete, and no reserves were available once the invasion began. On 7 August 1942, U.S. Marines landed on Guadalcanal and encountered minimal resistance. The Japanese, mostly construction troops, fled inland after heavy naval and air bombardment. In sharp contrast, fierce resistance erupted on nearby islands, Tulagi, Govatu, and Tanambogo, where experienced Japanese naval troops fought to the death from entrenched positions. Marine raider units under Lieutenant Colonel Mary Dodson faced brutal close-quarters combat, including night attacks, snipers, and suicidal Japanese counter-assaults. The fighting revealed Japanese tactical doctrine emphasizing death before surrender. American forces quickly adapted, abandoning expectations of capitulation. Meanwhile, Japanese aircraft from Rabaul attempted to strike the invasion fleet. American carrier fighters destroyed many bombers, though Japanese Zero fighters retained an edge in maneuverability and experience. These air battles marked a learning curve. American pilots developed tactics to offset the Zero's advantages, relying on teamwork, concentrated firepower, and aircraft durability. Despite success ashore, Admiral Fletcher withdrew U.S. carriers early, fearing unacceptable losses. This decision left transports and Marines dangerously exposed. Japanese Naval Commander Vice Admiral Genichi Mikawa reacted swiftly, assembling a cruiser force for a night attack, exploiting Japan's superiority in nocturnal naval warfare. Allied intelligence failed disastrously. Air searches neglected the most obvious approach route, later known as the slot, allowing Mikawa's force to advance undetected. Submarine and bomber sightings were dismissed as routine movements. Poor coordination between Allied commands compounded the intelligence failure. Thus, while the landings succeeded tactically, strategic misjudgments, divided command, and intelligence breakdowns left the Allied fleet vulnerable, setting the stage for a devastating counterattack and marking Guadalcanal as a bold but perilous turning point in the Pacific War.